I'm Mark Donovan from HomeAdditionPlus.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make some minor repairs to drywall. This past winter we've had an incredible amount of snow, approximately 9 feet of snow, and as a result of that we had some ice dams on a portion of our home's roof. And as a result of that we had water back in through the roof eaves at one point, and the water came in on the drywall and damaged a little bit of the drywall. So I'm going to show you the damage, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix it. So you can see here, water came in on the drywall and underneath the paint and basically formed bubbles, eventually dried out, leaving this kind of wrinkled mess on the corner of the drywall. And similarly, along the seam, one of the seams of the drywall, we've kind of got this bulgy tape line. So I'm going to remove all that. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my 6-inch taping knife and just basically go right up the side of this wall and strip away this loose peeling paint. And as you can see, it's going quite easy. We're going to get both sides. And now I'm going to use my taping knife again across this seam where we've got this bubbled up area. And now that I removed all of the affected area and even took off the piece of tape that was on this seam, I'm just going to use some very coarse sandpaper to rough up around the periphery edges of where I'm going to tape and mud again. This will make it so that new paint will adhere to this very well. Now that I removed all the peeling paint and drywall joint compound, I'm about ready to tape the seam again. Though I'm using a fiberglass sticky mesh tape to tape the seam, I have decided to put in a layer of joint compound, just a standard all-purpose joint compound, to fill some of the voids. And now I'm simply just running my taping knife flat over the mesh tape to remove any bubbles. So for this first pass of mud over the tape, we're just doing a rough application of the joint compound. We're going to come back after this dries and put a couple more coats of it on, so it doesn't have to be perfect in this pass. And now with the first application of joint compound and the tape complete, we'll let this fully dry and then apply another 2 layers of joint compound before we do a final sand. I'm getting ready to put on my second coat of mud, but I'm going to take my 6-inch taping knife first and just quickly run over the surface area of the first coat of mud just to take off any high spots. So for my second coat of mud, I'm starting in the corners first. And so for the seam itself, I'm using a 12-inch drywall taping knife to basically really spread out the joint compound over the seam. And now for my third and final coat of joint compound, again I'm just going to take my taping knife and basically just knock off the high spots along the area that I've already applied joint compound. And now for the third and final coat of joint compound, I'm doing what they call a skim coat, very thin layer. I'm starting in the corners and working my way down. And lastly, I'm doing the taped seam using my 12-inch knife and just lightly going over the surface of it in a skim coat manner. Now with the joint compound completely dry, I'm going to use this drywall mesh paper and attach it to this foam float, if you will, and then basically just sand down the walls so that I remove all of the edges of the drywall and get a nice smooth surface. You notice as I sand, I'm really working on the outer edges and basically trying to blend it in with the rest of the wall and not sanding too much directly over the tape lines. And now with the wall completely sanded and vacuumed up, I'm now applying a primer. It's important to apply a primer to the joint compound or over it in order to ensure that the paint adheres well to the joint compound and blends in nicely with the rest of the wall surface. So I'm just brushing it on the primer. I'll roll on the paint. And now with the primer applied, we'll allow this time to dry. And And then we'll wrap up this project with a couple coats of paint. And now all I'm doing is putting on my final coat of paint to wrap up this project. And that's all there is to making a simple drywall repair. If you have other home improvement questions, visit us at HomeAdditionPlus.com today.